G'day guys, with the new year just starting up, I imagine some of you have been making a New Year's resolution, and some of those resolutions might be promising yourself that you're going to get out more often and take more landscape images. You might find yourself saying that sort of thing every year, but life just gets too busy. I know. I have full-time work, I have a family that I enjoy spending time with, and I have all the other challenges and commitments that life throws at me. When I asked you a few months ago what your biggest challenge was with your landscape photography, the most popular response was finding the time and the motivation to get out and shoot as often as you'd like. So that's what we're going to deal with in this video. I'm going to share with you how I plan and I keep myself motivated, and hopefully I can give you some ideas so that you can use them this year to make sure that you get out as often as you possibly can and shoot as many landscape images as possible. This video is sponsored by Squarespace, so if you need a website, a domain or an online store, make your next move with Squarespace. Landscape photography is really important to me. I love the creative side of it, and I enjoy just getting out and exploring the outdoors. Not to mention the physical benefits of hiking and moving about, the social benefits of the connections that I make through my photography, and the mindfulness that I have just by being in the moment. Despite all of these benefits, I still find that I sometimes haven't got out as much as I'd like to. As I said before, there are some really good reasons why this might be the case. We all have important commitments that need our time, but I think there are some things that we can do to create or maximize how often we can get out and shoot. I think there are two aspects to this problem. One is not finding the opportunity to get out for some photography. And usually when that happens, I find myself saying things like, I just haven't had a chance to get away, or I've just been too busy lately. But really, I just haven't got anything planned. With a little bit of planning, I can create a chance to get away for some photography. The other aspect is motivation. Usually when I say things like, I'm just too tired today, or I didn't think the light was going to be good enough this evening, they're really just excuses that cover up a lack of motivation. Now I've got a whole bunch of ideas that will help with motivation that I want to share with you. But first, let's just quickly talk about planning your photography opportunities. The first idea is a little obvious, but I thought I'd mention it anyway. One way of creating an opportunity is to plan a photography trip. If you don't plan it, it's not going to happen by itself. The advantage, of course, of a photography trip is that the entire time is dedicated to your photography. You have the chance of being totally immersed in the creative process. You are entirely focused on creating your landscape images. If you aren't into all of that organising, or you just don't have time to plan a trip, the easiest solution is to book yourself on a photography workshop where everything is worked out for you. The added bonus, of course, is that these workshops are run by a photographer who can help you out with your photography, so you're making the most of the time that you're spending away. Now, there are plenty of workshops around, but in the interest of self-promotion, I have a few spots left in my Tasmania workshop, as well as my Karajini workshop that I'm running later on this year. So if you're interested, check out the links in the description below. Getting away for a shoot potentially just requires an hour or two. So if I'm already going away with a family or through work, then I try and find some time where I can get away with my camera. I've done this plenty of times. A couple of quick tips for that is, if I'm on a work trip, I'll try and extend it for a day or two, just so that I can have some dedicated time. If I can back it on to a weekend, that's even better. If I'm away with family or friends, I tend to try and get away early in the mornings for an hour or two. That way I'm having less impact on the rest of the group that I'm traveling with. Not only is the light nicer in the mornings, it tends to be less windy, or particularly that's the case here in Western Australia. I've also found it really helpful to do some research, work out what the terrain might be using Google Earth, work out how I'm going to get there and where I'm going to park, how much hiking might be involved, use weather apps to work out what the conditions might be, and also get on Instagram to work out what sort of images I might be taking, even getting down to what lenses might be helpful to bring. This is all to reduce the amount of gear that I might be bringing, because remember, you're trying to maximize the amount of limited time you might have. With working full time, I need to work around my day job to find some time for my photography. Luckily, I don't work during sunrise or sunset, so I plan my shoots before and after work when I've got the best light. Living on the west coast means that we enjoy the sun setting over the ocean, so I find shooting after work is better. There are many benefits in shooting locally. These places become familiar to you the more you visit them. You start to build a special connection with these places that allows you to capture unique stories because you understand how these locations look and feel under different conditions. One of the biggest benefits in shooting locally is the simple fact that they are so close to home, and it doesn't take you too long to get out and take a few shots. So definitely include local spots in your plan this year. Mine is just down at Burns Beach. It's just down the road from where I live, and it's where I've practiced and learnt the majority of my photography skills. So that's planning. But it's only part of the equation. The other part, of course, is motivation, and that's what I really wanted to talk about today. I used to find myself saying things like, I won't go now, the light doesn't look really good, or I'll go next weekend when I've sorted out my gear and I've charged my batteries, but they're just excuses. I've done all this hard work and organised an opportunity to go away only to not see it through because of a lack of motivation. What's worked for me to get around this is to identify the excuses and remove them, and to create situations that encourage me to get out and shoot more. First up is be organised. Sort out all your camera gear, have it packed in your camera bag. I have a charging station where it's really easy for me to have all my batteries charged up, and I get into the habit of cleaning my gear when I come home from my previous shoot. So at a moment's notice, I can grab my bag and I'm ready. I even go to the extent of setting aside a set of clothes. Remember, I'm trying to remove the excuse that I'm not quite ready to go. Next one is stop waiting for the perfect conditions. I've sometimes heard it referred to as being a light snob. This usually happens when I might have an image in mind that I don't think I can achieve in the current conditions. When I find myself starting to talk myself out of going, I try and turn it around. First, I think of the value of getting out and shooting, the physical benefits, the chance to get out and relax and enjoy a moment outdoors. I don't need perfect conditions for that. Then I find a focus that encourages me to get out, something that I want to try out or experiment with, something that is reasonably small and may only take 1 or 2 shots and isn't going to be impacted by the conditions. It might have something to do with gear, like trying out a new cable release shutter or an ND filter. It might have something to do with a camera setting, like a new time-lapse mode. It might have something to do with something creatively, like taking all of my shots with an exaggerated foreground. Or it might be as simple as just going out and scouting an area and finding a composition that I might want to come back to later. The strategy here is to find something small and achievable that focuses me on getting out. Once I'm out on location, the rest of it takes care of itself, and I find that I often stay for hours and keep on shooting. The reality is that I only needed those perfect conditions for that image that I had in mind. And once I'm out on location and I'm working with the conditions that I have, I find that I am capturing images that I hadn't even planned on. Next idea is to start a project. Part of the reason why I started this YouTube channel was to encourage me to get out and shoot more. Of course, you don't have to start your own channel. There's lots of other different projects that could result in you getting out and shooting more. Things like shooting in a particular location in each of the 4 seasons of the year, or shooting a location several times at different parts of the day. In fact, a mate of mine, Richard Lefroy, has done a video on that sort of project over on his channel. I'll link it up here and also in the description below. On a slightly bigger scale, I've heard of someone who shot the same location every single day on their way to work for an entire year. It was a big project, but they got to understand the location quite well and how the light interacted with the environment. They actually got a lot out of it. Another idea is to pick a particular subject. Like I did a few years ago, I decided to focus on shooting waves off the west coast for a couple of weeks. It just gave me a break from the traditional landscape photography and encouraged me to get out and shoot a lot more. If you are currently involved in a project or you've got an idea for one and you're willing to share it, please add it to the comments below. Not only are projects a great way of encouraging you to shoot more, but they're also a great way of developing your photography, because you often shoot in conditions that you might not normally shoot in. A similar idea is to set up a challenge for yourself. By restricting an aspect of your photography, not only are you giving yourself a focus for your next photography trip, but you're also encouraging yourself to think differently, which is a great way of developing your creativity. Some great challenge ideas are things like only shooting at a particular focal length, like 50mm or 100mm, or things like restricting yourself to only shooting 12 shots or 24 shots, just like the film days. In fact, you could extend this and make it even more like film by covering up or turning off the LCD screen on the back of the camera so that you can only check your shots once you're back home. On your next shot, try and shoot in an aspect ratio which is different from landscape. So restrict yourself to only shooting panoramas or portrait or even a square crop. Or another idea is to restrict your shutter speed. So lock in, say, a second and shoot all of your images at a second. And to make this challenge even harder, remove the use of a tripod and turn off any image stabilization. Again, if you have an interesting challenge scenario that you'd like to share, then add it to your comments below. These challenges can be fun to do with somebody else, but actually just organising to go out and shoot with somebody else can be motivation enough. Similar to building habits around exercise, if you encourage somebody else to be part of that process, then not only are you letting yourself down if you decide not to go, but you're also letting the other person down. So you're more likely to go out and shoot as you'll be encouraging each other. If you don't know anybody that's into photography, then a good alternative is to join your local camera club, where not only are you mixing with like-minded people, but most camera clubs organise regular photography trips, which is a great chance for you to get out and shoot. There are even online camera clubs that support each other through Facebook communities. As I said before, these suggestions are all about removing the excuses you're using to not get out and creating situations that encourage you to get out and shoot more. Because shooting more often is the best and most effective way of improving your landscape photography. Of course, with all of this extra photography you're going to be doing this year, you're going to need somewhere to share those images. And there's no better place to share your images than your own website, your own part of the internet. I use Squarespace to build my website, and I have done for years because it's just so easy to use. You could start with a simple page. Just pick a template you like and create a page. Adding the images is as simple as dragging and dropping, and Squarespace takes care of the rest. If you want to give your website a new look, switching up templates is straightforward. And there are plenty of options to customize each template so you can get the look and feel you're after. Any updates, hosting, and award-winning 24/7 support is all included in the service. So head on over to squarespace.com for your free month trial, which will give you plenty of time to get up and running. And then if you do want to go ahead with a website, go to squarespace.com/Andrew Marr to get 10% off your first purchase, or use the discount code Andrew Marr. So that's it. I hope you found some of these ideas helpful. If you did enjoy the video, please give it a like. What are your plans for your photography in 2020? I'd love for you to share them in the comments below. I hope everyone has a year full of landscape photography opportunities. Just quietly, my goal for 2020 is to create more videos for this channel. So feel free to subscribe if you aren't already, so you don't miss out on my next video. But until then, guys, thanks very much for watching.